Hey guys, so I'm up here in Fort Collins. I released a video yesterday of me having a really hard time, and I still am. It is not a good day internally. I put clothes on and took a shower, so that was an accomplishment, and drove up to Fort Collins. I'm gonna see my friend here in a little bit, but I've decided to take a hike, just take a walk, just be alone outside for a while, and that ends up being a really healing thing for me. But I'm gonna reflect a little bit on why I feel like my trauma, it is just invalid. Like, I realize that that's a reoccurring theme throughout the past 6.5 years of my life that I keep coming back to. Like, it doesn't qualify, even though I run a channel talking about trauma. I still internally often feel like all the things I've gone through don't actually qualify. And so I'm gonna walk around here in this gorgeous area for a little while and think, and then I'm gonna get back to you guys on some of the things that I've reflected on. So I'll be back to you here shortly. So I'm gonna take a break here and just talk for a little while about what I've been thinking about. I think a lot of the time I feel like I am disqualified from trauma, which is funny because I run a channel talking about trauma, because of fill in the blank. And I'm gonna fill in some of those blanks because I think they might be things that are common. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just talking for my own sake, and if that's the case, then hey, I'm just talking for my own sake. But number one, I feel like I'm disqualified from actually not being okay or talking about what I've been through, or really being a victim or struggling, because it didn't happen when I was younger. I was in an abusive relationship and sexually assaulted when I was 20. And trauma changes your brain no matter how old you are. Like, I'm not just talking about like psychologically, like it biologically changes you, period, end of story. But it does that more severely when you're a kid. And so I've always felt like what I've gone through wasn't valid enough because I was too old. And I think sometimes saying these things out loud is kind of helpful. But like, I shouldn't have a hard time because I was not a kid anymore, technically. Reason number two, because I knew him. Because we were in a relationship. Because there were some things that I had done willingly with him, sort of. So why would it matter that it just went a lot farther against my will in that one instance? I know that sounds dumb to say out loud, but that was one thing that like the police officer actually told me. That, like, well, you guys were in a relationship, so... Reason number three, I feel like my trauma isn't valid because I had good support. I didn't have great support from everyone. I talk a lot about mistakes that were made, but like, my family did the best they could, and I did have friends that stuck by me, and a lot of people don't have that. And I had access to counseling, which saved my life. And I feel like I should be okay, or I should be put back together, or like everything should be all right because I had help. And a lot of people don't have that. And thinking about that now, I'm floored again by what a incredible gift the support I had and have is. Because a lot of people don't make it in one way or another. And I did. And a huge piece of that was that I had people. So that's not a reason why my trauma isn't valid, even though in some moments I feel like it is. It's a reason to be incredibly grateful, and I am incredibly grateful. Reason number 4 that I feel like my trauma isn't valid is that I did not fight back physically. And that is a really difficult one for me because I didn't walk away with bruises, physical ones. And I think it would have been a lot easier mentally if I had, especially because I found out later that he had multiple convictions of domestic violence. So like, this was a really violent man. He would have hurt me more if I had fought back more. And in a really fucked up way, that makes me feel pathetic. That like, all he had to do was control my mind to control my body. He didn't have to use more force than he did. And I know that in a lot of ways I was very lucky for that, but in a lot of ways that's a really shameful thing for me, and so I feel like my trauma is less valid because I don't have bruises. I know that's not true, but I'm just kind of putting reasons out there where I feel like my trauma isn't valid. I think this next one just kind of builds off number 4, but I feel like it isn't valid or real sometimes because I didn't leave immediately after. Like, I didn't run out of his house screaming or crying. I was in shock. And I stuck around for a little while, enough for him to say some really awful stuff. And I was kind of just like I said, completely in shock. And I didn't realize what had happened. I was just kind of like a zombie, and I was going through the motions of existing and being there and talking to him and responding to what he was saying. But it didn't hit me until I left that something was horribly wrong. I know that is actually more common than not, but it makes me feel sick that I still talk to him, and that I talked to him after that too. Like, I talked to him on the phone like a week later, long enough for him to almost convince me that we should still be friends. How screwed up is that? But I know that's how it goes. I know that's how it works. I know that's a common story, but ugh. And then reason number 6 why I feel like my trauma isn't valid is because there are details which I am not ready to go into on camera about the specifics of what happened that make me feel like, if I think about them when I'm in a bad place, like I'm to blame. And if I'm to blame, then nothing happened that was wrong, right? But I know that's not accurate. The specific details are actually a traumatized brain attempting to survive a horrendous situation. But the emotional side of me does not quite understand that, like the rational side does. It's funny because when I was talking to my counselor yesterday, she said, you know, when you're in this kind of a place, a really dark, difficult, shame-filled place, channel your inner Olivia Benson. I don't know if any of you guys watch Law & Order SVU, but that's like what I watch when I'm in this place. I consume a ridiculous amount of episodes of Law & Order SVU because it makes me feel like I'm not weird. It makes me feel like I belong. It makes me feel like there are people out there who are fighting for the right thing. And like, it makes me feel like it wasn't my fault. It makes me feel like I'm not alone. And Olivia Benson is the main character, and she always says the right thing. And she always makes victims feel like it isn't their fault and makes it clear that abusers are to blame for their actions. So, this week I am going to work on channeling my inner Olivia Benson when all of these thoughts pop into my head of all the reasons I feel like I'm not valid, or my trauma isn't valid, or I'm to blame. Because I know those things aren't true, like upstairs, I know it, and I would never for a fucking second ever think that about anyone else, ever, never have. But I think it about myself. And so there's that disconnect that I've talked about before, but there is a disconnect in me still between my emotions and my rational brain. And so I'm gonna work on that. And now I'm gonna turn off the camera and get back to walking around in the middle of an open space like a weirdo, just kidding, and just thinking. So thank you for being a part of this process with me. Thank you for another bug allowing me to be honest and just talking. And I'm pretty sure there was a wind, so I hope you could hear me. But anyways, I'm not okay. And I'm trying to let that be okay. And trying to sit with that and not push it away. So that's what I'm gonna go do. Hang in there, guys. I'm Jo Beckwith. This is Trauma Talk. You're amazing. Please take care of yourselves. I'll see you next time.